"Sir, I know how to help your daughter walk again." That voice, so quiet, so certain, came from the shadows of a Boston alley Gregory Vale had never noticed before. He had walked past it 100 times, but never like this. Never pushing a wheelchair that squeaked with every turn. Never with his 8-year-old daughter sitting in it, silent legs limp under a wool blanket, and hope long gone from her eyes. Gregory stopped. The voice hadn't come from a doctor's office, not from a clinic or a therapist's mouth. It had come from a boy. A barefoot, dark-skinned boy no older than Naomi, wrapped in a coat, 3 sizes too big, his hands dirty, one eye slightly bruised. And yet, he spoke like someone who had nothing to lose, and everything to offer. Gregory turned to face him. His instincts, honed from decades in business, screamed scam, but there was something in that child's gaze. It wasn't pity. It wasn't desperation. It was clarity. "What did you just say?" Gregory asked slowly. "I said I can help your daughter walk again," the boy repeated. "My name's Eli." Silence filled the space between them. Only the distant hum of traffic reminded Gregory he was still standing in the middle of the city. "Is this some kind of trick?" he asked, keeping one hand on Naomi's wheelchair. "No trick," Eli said, stepping forward. "I saw you here yesterday. I waited today. I thought maybe she still wanted to run." Naomi's eyes lifted slightly, for the first time in weeks. Gregory exhaled. Hard. He had spent millions looking for a miracle. World-class neurologists, rehabilitation centers across the country, energy healers, acupuncturists, shamans from Peru. All had taken his money and left him with the same verdict. She'll never walk again. And now this, a child from an alley offering what no expert could. Gregory crouched beside Naomi. "What do you think?" he asked gently. She turned her face to him, whispering only 3 words. "Let's try Daddy." Gregory hesitated and then nodded. "All right," he said, "but if anything feels wrong, we leave." Eli smiled. Not like a child, like someone who had waited a long time to be heard. "Follow me," he said. And with that, the boy disappeared down the alley. Gregory took a deep breath, gripped the wheelchair's handles, and followed, not knowing he had just stepped off the map. Not knowing that in the next hour everything he believed about pain healing and miracles would change forever. The alley swallowed them whole. The deeper they followed Eli, the more Gregory questioned his own sanity. Gone were the polished sidewalks of Boston's business district. Here the pavement cracked under rusted chain-link fences. Empty soda cans clinked when Naomi's wheelchair bumped past them. Murals peeled from brick walls, revealing messages left behind by people who had long since disappeared. "You live around here?" Gregory asked, scanning the dark corners. "Back behind the old train station," Eli said without turning. "Used to be an office building. No one goes there anymore, which is kinda perfect." His voice was light, but not careless. More like someone who had made peace with things most grown men run from. Naomi didn't speak, but her eyes never left Eli's back. As if somehow she didn't see a street kid in an oversized coat, but a trail of something she thought she'd lost possibility. They reached a path overgrown with weeds. Trash gave way to trees. City sounds began to fade, replaced by the hum of cicadas and the distant hoot of an owl. "Through here," Eli said, holding aside a curtain of ivy. "What exactly is this?" Gregory asked. "Some retreat center camp?" "Nah," Eli said. "It's just where she lived, my grandma." Gregory's jaw tightened. Of course there's a grandma. But he said nothing. They stepped into a clearing, and there it was. A cabin. Old, wooden, crooked. The kind of place you'd expect to see in a children's book where witches live in gingerbread homes. Except this one had wind chimes made of spoons and beads, dream catchers hanging from the eaves, and smoke rising faintly from a tin chimney. An old woman stepped out onto the porch. She wore a shawl made of stitched fabric scraps. Her hair was long and silver braided with strands of bark and thread. Her eyes, pale green, held something ancient. Not age, but memory. "You brought them," she said, looking at Eli. She believed Eli said, nodding toward Naomi. Gregory stepped forward, half shielding his daughter. "Who exactly are you?" The woman tilted her head gently. "I'm someone who remembers what people forget. May I see the child?" Naomi looked at her father. He hesitated, then nodded. The woman knelt in front of Naomi's wheelchair and asked softly, "May I touch your knees, child?" Naomi swallowed, then whispered, "Okay." The woman's hands were rough but warm. She closed her eyes and began to hum a sound so low it barely rose above the wind. Naomi flinched. Gregory tensed. "What is it?" he asked. I felt something," Naomi whispered. Where My toes, they tingled. The woman opened her eyes calm and unshaken. Her spine is not broken, she said. It's frozen. Grief locks the body like ice. This is not about medicine. This is about remembering how to feel safe again. Gregory stepped back, shaking his head. That's not science. No, the woman said quietly. It's something older. Eli moved beside Naomi. You can try to stand now if you want. The girl's hands trembled. She looked at her father again. He knelt beside her, tears in his eyes. If anything feels wrong, I know, she said. Naomi gripped the armrests. Her right leg twitched, then her left. The old woman stepped back. Naomi rose. Wobbly, shaky, but upright. Gregory froze. His hands half reached, not knowing whether to catch her or simply let her be. She took one step, then another, then fell. Gregory lunged forward, catching her gently. I've got you, he whispered, his voice cracking. Daddy, Naomi sobbed. I felt my legs. You did, sweetheart, he whispered. You really did. Behind them, the woman said nothing. She had seen this before. No applause, no spotlight. Only presence. Eli stood a few steps away, quiet, still, watching. That night, Gregory didn't sleep. Back at their apartment overlooking the harbor, Naomi lay curled under her blanket, no wheelchair beside her bed. Just her father's shoes quietly set near the doorway, like he didn't want to jinx what had happened. She had taken 5 more steps after they left the cabin. They were shaky, wobbly, but real. Gregory had cried. He hadn't cried since his wife died, and even then it had felt like something he owed the world. This time, it came from the bottom of him. The next morning, Naomi insisted on trying again. No help, just her, the hallway, and the wall to steady her. Daddy, she grinned, I want to walk to school next week. Gregory nodded but said nothing. There was a knot in his throat too big to talk through. A week later, she did. At Hamilton Elementary, Naomi Vale stood at the foot of the auditorium stage. Her teacher offered her a ramp. She smiled and shook her head. The crowd of students fell silent. Naomi climbed the stairs. Each step was slow, measured, careful. But she did it. No braces, no wheelchair, just will. At the top, she turned, looked out at the crowd, and raised her arms like she'd just finished a race. Someone started clapping, then the whole room. Afterward, a local reporter asked her, what was the turning point? Naomi didn't hesitate. A boy, she said softly. A boy who believed I could. Meanwhile, 3 neighborhoods away, Eli sat in the back of a convenience store parking lot, beside a girl who hadn't spoken in days. Her mother had left. Her father had screamed too much, and now the world was just noise. He didn't ask questions, didn't try to fix. He just hummed. The same low tune his grandmother once sang under the trees. The same tune that made Naomi feel her toes again. The girl didn't look at him. But she didn't walk away either. Sometimes that's enough. Later that evening, Gregory returned to the alley. Eli was gone. Only a few chalk drawings remained on the wall. One of a girl standing beside a boy in a giant coat, both smiling, both barefoot. Gregory pulled out a card and placed it under a brick with care. On the back, he had written one line, "If you ever forget how to believe, come find us." Some people heal with medicine, some with science, and some like Eli with presence. He never asked for attention, never asked for money. He only ever asked one thing. Do you still believe it's possible? And sometimes that's all it takes.